Welcome to today's webinar on eRFPs. Discover tactical tips to sourcing smarter, not harder. And this webinar is brought to you because of a partnership between CMP and Destination Marketing Association International's web portal, empowerMINT.com. And we are sponsored by ePro Direct, and ePro Direct, Jerry Bell will have an opportunity to say a few comments at the end of our webinar. So my name is Shimo, and I work for Destination Marketing Association International, and DMAI is the industry trade association for convention and visitor bureaus. And I'm joined today by Eric Eden, who is the Vice President of Marketing with CMP. Hi, Eric.
Good afternoon.
Well, Eric has 17 years of experience in B2B marketing and digital media, online marketing, and all of those things that maybe some of us on the webinar don't really know about. But he does champion the products of CMP's global marketing strategy, marketing campaigns, and partnerships, and we're really happy to be a partner of CMP. So we're looking forward to hearing from you, Eric.
Thank you.
We are also welcomed by Frank Passanante. He is the Regional Vice President of Sales for Hilton Worldwide, and I really have a couple of pages of Frank's bio here to go through. Oh, I'm just kidding, Frank. But we're really glad that Frank can bring probably over 25 years of experience in, sales and marketing for the hospitality industry. Frank, his responsibilities range from not only the single unit sales and marketing oversight of the multiple property portfolios, but he is also currently the Regional Vice President of Sales for Hilton Worldwide. And I think you're serving and overseeing the Washington, D.C. area. So welcome, Frank, and we're looking forward to hearing from you and your experience.
Thank you, Shima.
And then Darren Temple with Dallas Convention and Visitors Bureau is currently serving as the Senior Vice President of Sales and Services for Dallas. And in this position, he's responsible for the overall strategy and direction of their sales and service efforts. And he's also, while ensuring that Dallas is positioned as one of the nation's top meeting, convention, and leisure destinations. So it's really great to have the experience that we have on today's webinar. And so to really talk about what we'll be reviewing today is that online RFP agents truly have become, perhaps a meeting industry game changer for us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and Frank's going to address how, the advent of the eRFP has changed some of the ways in which hotels are dealing with some of your RFPs. And so I think it's very, very important that we kind of share some of those changes and how RFPs really get to the top position in order for you, the planner, to get the best offer. And then Darren is going to help us understand how you can lean upon destination experts to through the process of finding the right venue. And then Eric and I will talk a little bit about the technologies that will help you with 5 key takeaways for getting better results. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, you can please utilize your question and answer box, and we will address those at the end. And also at the end of the webinar, you will receive information about your CMP credits, as well as information about the fact that we'll be recording this webinar. So let's start off with you, Frank, in helping us understand the consideration that you're facing.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Shimo, and it's terrific to be here this afternoon. Really, the easiest way to start is by setting the stage, and I believe we've got a slide that kind of shows the evolution of behavior. If we can just get that up. There we go. So this is a great place to start before we kind of dig into it from a hotel perspective. We can all just think about our own personal travel buying habits think about how we used to buy travel for our own selves. We started by phone, calling up a hotel, calling up the airlines. We then migrated to technology like faxes and then email. And then we found our ways directly to private label websites like Hilton.com, Marriott.com, UnitedAirlines.com, and then to online aggregators. We could think of some like Kayak or Sidestep and others. So there's been truly an evolution over time in how we buy travel products as individuals. Planners also clearly have adopted how they're connecting with suppliers overall. They're continuing, all of you are searching to streamline ways of doing business within a one-stop shop environment. So clearly time has changed, and the way customers want to buy has changed, which has caused us, as your supplier partners, to change how we sell. It's our obligation to you, it's our obligation to ourselves to sell the way our customers want to buy. We've had to respond to this shift, this evolution, to ensure that we're meeting the needs of you, and our partners. Let's take a look at the next slide, and I'll give you just a brief sense of what this all means. The growth of eRFPs is really staggering. So as we've evolved over time, the byproduct of that was the eRFP. Hilton's business opportunities from eRFP channels is big. It's not only big, it continues to grow year after year after year. Just a couple of quick numbers here. On the left side of the screen, what you see, 33% increase in leads, business opportunity volume, through, and this is specifically through the CMP channel, year over year. That was last year's increase over the prior year. 32% increase in unique organizations sourcing through that CMP channel. To put it in perspective, CMP is a primary channel. Hilton and other partners, other hotel partners, benefit from eRFPs coming from other channels as well. 25% increase through all of our channels, increased year over year. More than 40% total of all of our Hilton Worldwide's total lead opportunities come through eRFP channels. And to put this in perspective, some of these numbers, these percentages don't necessarily translate. For Hilton Worldwide, we're talking about well over 1 billion room nights in lead opportunities represented in the eRFPs. And as it relates to dollars and cents, billions of dollars in potential revenue. So what's important to understand is eRFPs are here. That was the evolution, and these numbers are big, and they continue to grow. But an important distinction is the distribution has increased clearly. There's a lot more business coming to us and other suppliers through these channels. But the business itself hasn't necessarily increased. So what's important to understand is there's a pie, and the pie is essentially the same. We're just getting more opportunities. The distribution of that pie is going to many more people. So the business has remained essentially the same, but the distribution has increased.
And I'd like to just underscore that, Frank, because I think that what that really is the net effect is that there's a lot more people, resources that a hotel has to really dedicate to, how are you going to really handle this increased volume when, really the overall volume has stayed the same from a business perspective and from a revenue perspective, but yet people are getting more and more opportunities, and really what does that mean for you?
Absolutely, and that's a perfect segue. If we move to the next slide, that's exactly what we wanted to address is, with this change, clearly these big numbers also bring with them several considerations. And to Shimo's point, the things that we wanted to talk about are training and allocation of resources, time management, and increased competition. The eRFP, the electronic channels, is absolutely here to stay. And our intent here is to simply share, as Shimo said, the hotelier's perspective on some of the key considerations that hotel sales professionals are faced with. This shift in buyer behavior has had a direct impact on how we interact with our customers. And in our effort to not let our customers down, we've had to think about these three key areas. So relative to training and allocation of resources, we've had to train our teams on this new technology. Identifying ways to build planner relationships through an online avenue versus direct interaction is different. Teaching our teams to sell in this new way, we're obligated and we want to sell the way our customers want to buy. We've had to spend time mastering the grid. The RFPs, we're filling out grids. We're not necessarily, in all cases, having dialogue. We've got to master that grid. The expectations of our customers relative to RFP responses is high, and it's spending time with our teams really teaching them and training them on what those expectations are. Those are all relative. Those are all important. As it relates to time management, learning how to prioritize the most qualified RFPs is probably the biggest challenge we've had, and this ties into what Shima was alluding to. First and foremost, our focus is on delivering quality responses that help our customers and ultimately help us as the partners book the business. The amount of time it takes to respond to one electronic RFP, it can be well over 30 minutes or more when done properly and correctly. So prioritization of RFPs relative to time management is absolutely critical. Not all RFPs today that we receive are created equally. It's dependent on a lot of factors. It's dependent on the number of venues that are being sourced, number of cities, is the city definite, the completeness of the RFP. Also, what's important to recognize is there's a significant amount of duplication of efforts. Leads are coming through multiple sources. This is not your problem as planners, but it's a consideration that we as hoteliers and others have had to deal with. For instance, 22% of the leads that we receive from that CVent channel are also being copied to CDBs, which means we're also getting that lead from another source, a CDB lead. And many of those are also being copied to a national sales source, a worldwide sales source. So we may be getting it from that source as well. This requires us, from a time management prioritization perspective, to just recognize that and alter how we are dealing with things at the property level. High-volume destinations and cities can have staggering number of leads. Cities like Chicago and Washington and New York and some of the resort destinations are receiving up to 100 leads a day. So time management is absolutely critical. And the third piece, just to quickly mention, is increased competition. Obviously, the eRFPs have made it easier for planners to widen their search spectrum. Multiple city searches, multiple hotel venue searches. We're also competing with within our own family of brands often because RFPs are so easy to add multiple venues. So these are all key considerations that we as hoteliers have had to factor in with a focus on getting quality. Now, tips to getting priority attention from hotels. Again, these are the three key areas we want to touch on. Refining your search, keeping the lines of communication open, and being transparent with RFP details. Refine your search first. Recognize that only sending it to a reasonable number of hotels is going to get a better response. Lead quality and lead RFP quality responses is what we're really focused on. Now, keeping the lines of communication open, the eRFP certainly helps streamline the efficiency of the search process, but it absolutely should not replace dialogue. You want to share if you're sourcing through multiple sources like the CDB and national sales because the awareness on that front helps improve the communication for everybody. Remain open to follow-up and clarification questions. They're only aimed at delivering a better, more tailored and quality response. Recognize that when a hotel person wants to have a follow-up conversation in response to the RFP, it's really just to get better information so that they can tailor that response. Also, award the RFPs to keep communication fair and notify hotels who have won or lost and allow for reasonable time for the response. And probably one of the more critical things is being transparent. And what we mean by that is clearly outline in that RFP everything that can help the hotel partner provide you with a quality response. Clearly outline the flexibility that you might have relative to dates or pattern, flexibility in setup. Also, provide meeting history, provide organizational profiles so that we can understand what your objectives are. Include the number of suppliers being considered. Tell us, are you searching multiple destinations? Ideally, no more than 2 or 3. Share the complete specs of the meeting. Some planners provide too generic of an outline and discuss where you are in the selection process. How many hotels are being considered? Is the city definite? All of these factors are very important. Being transparent simply allows the hotels to better prioritize and also allows us to really deliver a quality response because that's ultimately our aim.
So Frank, I'd like to just sort of outline something that you mentioned and about, refining your search, and that is when a hotel sees that there are 30, 40 hotels that have been sourced on this particular RFP, what does that look like to the hotelier when there are so many hotels on there?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, not all RFPs are created equally. If there's 30 hotels being searched in 3 cities, it's not relative to this time management element. It's not going to be at the top of the pile. It's the quality that we want to provide back. But in that case, the search being so broad, it's not going to get the level of attention that it perhaps could or should if the search had been refined on the front end. So
that's one way in which a planner might be able to get their lead to the top of the pile, is really being a little more focused. But in order to get to that focused lead distribution, perhaps we can transition to Darren in how a DMO or a Convention and Visitors Bureau could really help refine the search. Because like you said, Frank, you don't want to see that there are 5 to 6 different destinations and then 20 to 30 hotels for each destination. That becomes, really a message to the hotels that perhaps this planner is not at the stage that they know exactly what they're looking for. So let me transition that to Darren. What are some of your thoughts, Darren, in terms of how our CVBs can help?
Great. Thanks, CMO. Our key role as a CVB is to be the top industry expert for our destination. That's what we do. No one should know more about the destination than the local CVB. It's our job, and the best part is that it's really offered to you at no charge. It's absolutely free to the meeting planner. Our desire is really to get involved prior to you sending the RFP through any means, but especially through the eRFP channel. We are the best and first point of contact, so our role is really to help planners find the right fit for any size meeting. It doesn't matter if it's large or small or medium. It's our role to make sure we find the best choice for you. CVBs are the only organization who really have a comprehensive view of the entire destination. So we understand booking patterns, what new developments are around town are going to be opening in the next months or years around the timing of your event, special event venues, or is there a connection to the convention center? So we really have a 360-degree view of the city and the destination, and it's our role to make sure that we map your needs, your objectives, what you consider a successful meeting or event, and get you in the right spot and really help you make the right selection with hotels and venues. Every day we engage with our hotel communities, our stakeholders, our partners, and through these relationships we gain insights, and we can help guide you to the right choice and really pick the best solution for your meeting needs. So again, we want to be the best first point of contact for you. Let's move on, Shimo. As Frank mentioned with Hilton, we have seen an explosive increase through the eRFP channel. Strictly through the CVET channel, we've seen a 46% increase in eRFPs year over year. And as a destination in Dallas, 31% of our leads in 2012 came through eRFP channels. That's very significant. So again, based on this volume, it's critical that you have a conversation. Hoteliers are the best expert on their hotel, and GSOs are the best expert on their brand. CVBs are the best expert for the overall destination. So we want to have a conversation. We want to have a dialogue with you in advance. So instead of just blasting the RFP to tens or maybe even hundreds of hotels and venues, let's help get in on the process on the front end. So our commitment is very simple. It's to help save you time and this duplicity that Frank spoke to that is affecting all of us, to be the expert in knowledge and get the best match for you, and to provide you with the connections that you can trust and bridge these relationships in our destination, and really help protect you from sales pressure when you still are in the exploratory mode of the selection process. Everyone wants your business, but the CVB is a great place to have a relationship that will help protect you from that sale pressure until you're ready to make the decision. So again, those are the big key points from the CVB perspective. Ultimately, it's our job to save you time.
And I think that from both Frank and Darren, what the underlying objective here is to really help the planner be better positioned and to really get the best deal. And some of the technology can really help sort of streamline this process. And through empowerMINT.com, planners can really come here to get connected to a destination expert. Sometimes you may not know who exactly at a destination you can contact to even start to have that upfront conversation. So at empowerMINT.com, you can begin a search and either type in one destination or a region, and that really then enables you to connect with an expert like Dallas here. And with that, you can use EmpowerMINT to email a contact directly or pick up the phone and give them a call. We have detailed information for you. But there are other technologies in the marketplace, specifically CVent, that could really help the ERP process. And so I'd like to turn it over to Eric.
Thanks, Shimo. What we have seen with our supplier network is that we have over 50,000 planners that are sending millions of RFPs for meetings to the 200,000 hotels, venues, and destinations on our network. And as we look at the planner behavior and how hotels respond to them and how CVBs are involved in working with both hotels and the planners, we've learned some really interesting, best practices. And I wanted just to share a couple of those thoughts with you today. That really, what they do is that it helps everybody play together better in the sandbox, so to speak. When there's such a high volume of business being done, and it is a competitive marketplace, the question is, what should planners do? From our perspective, we believe that planners should be able to do business the way that they want to do business, because every organization is a little bit different. Some organizations do want to work directly with hotels, but a lot of our customers, do like to work with CVBs and destinations directly because they're doing large citywide meetings or they need more information about the city. And then others work with national sales offices at hotels and hotel brands and chains. So our system really enables people to work closely with whatever process they have, and in some cases many organizations have different processes for different meetings and events they do because of the size and the budget and things like that. So from our very start, 5 years ago when we launched our supplier network, is we wanted to make CVBs and destinations a really good option for planners, because what we know is that from our research and watching thousands and thousands of meetings being booked every month, is that planners are considering 4 to 5 destinations on average. And the issue that happens is that it is reasonable for a planner to send a meeting RFP to 10 hotels and get pricing and availability from them, because if they send it to, say, 10 hotels, they will get for their procurement department or their boss 3 to 4 valid bids and proposals on space that is available, because a couple won't be available for the meeting, and maybe 1 or 2 people don't respond or don't have the right option. So it is a reasonable expectation that a planner gets 3 to 4 bids. It's a pretty standard procurement thing. The issue comes in if people are considering 5 destinations, for example, and they send an RFP to 10 hotels in each of the 5 destinations, it causes a lot of issues. And so one of those issues is that the hotels only have a 1 in 50 chance of winning that piece of business. And then if it takes, like Frank said, a hotel 30 minutes on average to respond to an RFP, sometimes longer, there's a lot of work going in across those 50 hotels to try to win one piece of business. So the biggest recommendation we have for planners is narrow down your destination before you send the RFP to hotels and many destinations, because that's when things, for lack of a better word, get crazy. So one of the things we want to highlight is that with our supplier network, we definitely allow people to source directly with a CVB. You can send a request to one CVB or to multiple CVBs to try to figure out what destination you want to have it in. If you need guidance and you're considering 5 different cities, you can get the information from the CVBs and narrow that down if you're in that type of a situation. The next thing is very important. It's a big part of our partnership with DMAI is that working with the destination experts. I often ask my meeting planners to plan meetings in cities they've never been to before, and that's a good time to contact a destination expert and for them to figure out, okay, I haven't been to Dallas before, but my boss just asked me to plan a meeting there, and they can give you the information they need. They can give you guidance. They can help recommend which hotels an RFP should go to or be included on, and then give lots of other information about the destination. So we integrated all of the destination experts that are on empowerMINT into our supplier network, and we highlight them to planners. We encourage them to reach out to destination experts to really figure out what destination is right for them versus just, for lack of a better word, blasting out an RFP to the entire world because they're not sure, because that's really not good for anybody. The other thing that we recommend is that rely on the resources that are out there on the web to do destination research. What me and my team have done is we created a destination guide which profiles 1,000 destinations around the world, and planners can compare the destinations and do research on them on their own to determine, okay, where should I have my meeting, and then they can figure out which destination experts to contact. In the old days, we saw magazines used to run, once a month they'd run a feature on a given destination, which is cool, but it didn't really help you compare, 10 different destinations when on the East Coast if that's where you're trying to do a meeting. And so doing this research step before you send an RFP is very important. We have a team of 25 writers who just writes about meeting destinations and has all the information about climate around the year for each destination, the convention center, and the taxi rates in the airport. And so it's a great free resource that is on our site. But there's other destination sites out there too that do a good job of explaining destinations. Most CVBs have websites as well. So doing that research before you send the RFP is really critical. And then we introduced a feature that has been really popular with our planners for all the destinations that work with us. When a planner sends an RFP to a hotel in the Dallas area, we prompt the planner and say, do you want to include the Dallas Convention and Visitor Bureau on this meeting RFP? And we do see that a lot of planners want to do that because if the hotel or the hotel they send it to come back and say they're full, the CVB can often help them find a better option, and they get involved and they really help the planner. And so that has been something that has been a big success, for our planners and destinations, and just helps destinations win more business because the planners don't always know what to do, and it really helps the destinations work together with the hotels and the planners to make it all come together. And then finally, just 5 tips for to summarize to make the process better based on the millions of RFPs we've seen across tens of thousands of planners working with our 200,000 venues is use the industry resources to do the research in advance, like the destination guide, like magazines, like CVB websites, whatever you're comfortable with, but do the research in advance. Include the destination experts in the discussion because they can help you narrow down the response. Refine your search. down to a reasonable number of properties. We recommend 6 to 10 is a good number to get 3 to 4 good bids. And then keep lines of communication open when you're doing meeting RFPs. It is a good idea to allow hotels to give you a call and discuss the meeting because, in talking to so many hoteliers, what they say, and destinations, what they say is, I just don't have the information I need to provide pricing and availability. And they can often do things like suggest alternate dates and things like that that are a huge benefit to planners to get, a better deal. So we highly encourage planners to work with the destinations and hotels to include all the information they can, to take phone calls from them and to work together. And finally, be transparent. And Frank touched on this as well. Is just that, hotels and destinations are there to work with planners, and they're most able to give the best pricing and options when they have the information they need. Sometimes planners don't always have all the information to give, but if you have it, that's the only thing we've seen where planners have gotten the most success and the best deals is when they're forthcoming with the details of their agenda, when they're very clear about what the requirements are, they're thoughtful about it in advance. It really creates great results. So these are our suggestions and thoughts based on all the volume of meetings business that go through our network.
And I think that is an excellent wrap-up, Eric, because, at the end of the day, the planners really do want to get themselves positioned to receive the best offer and to get the best deal for their meetings. And so just before, as we conclude this webinar, I just want to remind everyone about how they can receive CMP credit. And we will email you a certificate 1 week after this webinar, as well as a link to the webinar replay. And as we have gotten quite a lot of questions and answers, or questions, I should say, that I know the planners would like some answers to. And Terry, have you been receiving some of those questions?
Yeah, we've been really active today, which is so fun, and a lot of really good questions that I've been answering directly, but some specific ones I think I'd like Frank and then Darren to address. Frank, first for you, there have been quite a few questions about planners' perception that if they blast out to a ton of hotels, right, that it puts them in a better position to get better rates because then they will have a larger pool to, choose from. And so I want you to address that. Planners are like a little reluctant to narrow because they think they won't get the best rate opportunities. So could you address that?
Sure, and it's certainly not a perception that others don't share. We've heard that from a lot of folks. The reality is that as we talk about some of those core considerations, we're focused on providing quality responses that really help the planner. And the prioritization and time management is a critical component. So my suggestion is to really just refine that search initially, and if you don't get what you're looking for, then you can always resend. But blasting to multiple hotels, 10 plus, 15 hotels, and then multiple cities, and really spreading and widening that search spectrum initially is not going to provide the hoteliers or other partners with the ability to really put that from a priority perspective in the top of the pile. Not that they're not going to respond. They absolutely are going to respond. Every one of our hotel companies, all of us, all of our competitors have response time standards. But it just simply puts you in a better position if you do some refinement of that search initially.
Great. And then Darren, we've had a lot of comments and questions about, using the CVB as a filter. And one particularly interesting question, or two really, and I wonder if you could kind of address them in tandem, is I have a hotel relationship or I have a GSO relationship, how can I also get that CVB help? And then secondly, what about, using a CVB? Will they send my lead if a hotel that I'm interested in or a hotel that fits my needs isn't one of their members? Can I be sure that I will also get that outreach?
Yeah, those are both great questions. Thanks, Terry. First to the everyone has relationships. Some are more rich than others, but I think just to have a conversation, start a local CVB relationship. Every CVB has a website and has their sales and services team. So if you don't have a relationship with someone, you can really just call the director of sales or the vice president of sales and get connected very, very quickly. And again, I just want to reiterate that the CVB really should be and is the best first stop for information, the overall expert for that destination that can help you get to the right organization. And absolutely, I mean, some CVBs are set up as member organizations, some are not. But I think any responsible DMO will make sure that your RFP gets sourced to any hotel or venue of your choice. That's our responsibility.
Great, thank you. And then, Eric, a couple of questions planners are curious about maybe not being aware that when a lead is sent through CVent or empowerMINT that the hotels or the CVBs can see who else the lead was sent to.
Yeah, on our system, we don't give it's a blind bid system, and the hotels or destinations that are responding, don't have visibility into who else is competing for the business. However, there is a little bit of functionality between CVBs and destinations, and hotels, where in our system, the destinations can forward an RFP to hotels, and hotels can include the destination, because when hotels and destinations are working together, they can give each other the right to have visibility into a planner's RFP, so that they can work together on things like citywide. So if both sides agree, like the destination and the hotels, they can forward things to each other and they can give each other visibility into it. But like if there's two hotels competing, they can't, and they're not working together, they can't give each other, they don't have visibility into the other ones, who else is bidding.
Right. There's also some questions on eRFP conversion rates, if anyone would like to speak to that.
Yeah, so I think one thing that we see is that it depends how you calculate conversion rates. If it's some meetings do get canceled, so no one ends up winning is a reality. And then in other cases, what we see is that you have to calculate, how many bids you actually receive versus just how many people you send it to, because there are a pretty high percentage of RFPs that get turned down due to availability. So you can't really include, the total number that it was sent to. If it's sent to 10 hotels and 6 of them don't have availability, it's really, 1 out of 4 is the right way to calculate it. So the reality is that we work really hard with planners to have them mark, in our network who won the business. And we do offer an option where hoteliers can also mark if they won the business as well. So we work really hard to mark that so that people know when they won, but that doesn't happen 100% of the time. And so that also makes it difficult for both sides to kind of, keep track of things. But we're always looking at ways to make it easier for planners and hoteliers to communicate and find out who won, because the issue that often happens with everybody involved in the RFP process is that if it's not clear that someone's won, everybody's following up with each other. So this is one of the things from a technology standpoint that we're working really hard just to continue to innovate and come up with new ways that everybody can be in the loop on if the opportunity is still out there or if it's not out there.
Okay, great.
Eric, I think it's safe to say the more RFPs from a hotel's perspective, and conversion rates are taken from the perspective of the entity. So from a hotel's perspective, it's safe to say that the more they're distributed or are included in the distribution, the more that drives down the individual meetings conversion rates. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Yeah, clearly from the hotel perspective, the math is just stacked against us. So the conversions overall are low, but that's simply because the wider the distribution is, obviously one meeting is only going to be booked once, and it may have been shared with 10, 15 or more venues. So the math's against us. So the conversions as a percentage are low, but again, it's our responsibility and our obligation to sell the way customers want to buy, and they're here to stay, and we embrace them. So it's important, but overall, the math is against us.
Timo, one more question that I'd love for Frank and Darren to address, and it's funny because I've had a couple planners type this in, that the biggest issue they have with eRFPs in general is including a lot of detailed information and then not having the hotels actually read it and respond with all of the information they have asked for. So incomplete responses, even though details were in. Is there any way that you could provide planners with tips for making sure all the information is read and responded to?
Well, I'm happy to address that real quick. This is Frank. In the case where the information is complete and there, the onus is on us. Our responsibility is to provide quality responses. We're saying that we need that information in order to do that. And that really speaks to the first consideration that I outlined earlier, which was the training piece. We've had to retrain and really work with our teams on how to best sell in this new fashion. So it's really our responsibility. As long as the planners continue to provide that information, they've done their part. It's really now our responsibility to take that information and translate it into a quality response that really helps the customer get what they're looking for.
You know, maybe one possible way to do that is with a note or something at the top that says if a complete proposal is not, received, via the information, you will not be considered.
And from a CVB standpoint, I think it's the relationships again that we have with our partners that we have that conversation every day. So if we know what your needs are and understand whether the RFP is fully complete or not, if we can be an advocate on your behalf, and we can follow up directly with hotels that you're interested in to make sure that they respond at the absolute best way for you.
And Timo, last but certainly not least, because I'm still typing in answers individually to people, but there seems to be a lot of questions about getting a standard RFP template, and would you not refer them to the Convention Industry Council and the Apex workbook?
I think that is excellent, and we often get that request. And so as part of our email follow-up to everyone participating on this call today, we will include a link where they can get the accepted practices, exchange, Apex is standard RFP workbook. And this is a great, if you do not use the workbook in its entirety, you can certainly use it for a checklist for your own individual RFP. So we'll make sure everyone gets a link to that standard RFP template.
Could I just remind everyone to just have a little patience, though, to know that we will get you that link. We won't forget, but it's not immediate. It takes a few days for us to render the recording, because some people have said, can I listen to this recorded or send it on? Can I get a copy of the PowerPoint? Yes. And can I get the RFP template? Yes. So we will send you your certificate for your CMP, the link to the recording, the template, and the PowerPoint no later than 5 business days after this recording.
Well, thank you very, very much, Terry, for fielding all of the questions and activity on our question board. And at this time, I just would like to introduce Jerry Bell to say a few words as our sponsor from eProDirect. Hi, Jerry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction and for allowing eProDirect to be a sponsor of this webinar for useful information. eProDirect, so that everybody knows out there in the world, we are a hospitality marketing and technology solution company. Our focus is exclusive in the meetings and events industry, in the hospitality industry. And over the past 11 years we've been in business, we've developed several products and services, and our goal is to keep the meeting world connected. We consider our solutions, all of our solutions that we have, full circle, because we connect our suppliers with planners, our planners with suppliers, and planners, of course, to attendees, and attendees to the events as well. So all of our solutions come full circle, trying to connect everybody together for successful meetings and events. So again, thank you very much for allowing eProDirect to be a sponsor of the webinar, and we're looking forward to partnering with CMAI again. Thanks again.
Thank you, Jerry, and thank you for your support. And thank you to Frank and Darren and Eric for your participation on today's webinar.